Welcome to
the Dork-Bajir Chronicles,
where an expert
and a new expert,
read through K.A. Applegate's stunning sci-fi serial.
Animorphs.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Come on, get in here.
Hello, and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorph series one book at a time and then talk about it every week. Today, we'll be talking about number 48, The Return.
Or the one where Rachel gets buff, but I think actually on the cover less buff than is supposed to be portrayed in the book.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden, the mecha buff.
Yeah, she definitely describes having gears. But
Gears,
before we get
springs.
too far into that, it's time for some...
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Our first piece of fan mail comes from Blake Brinkley on Twitter. Blake has cracked this whole thing wide open. He's posted a link to our Live from the Gardens episode on the Threat, released June last year. I'll just run the clip.
Yeah, because the rats snuck onto the ship. And the fleas were on the rats in the rattling bogged down in the valley, oh.
Oh god, she's speaking in tongues.
Oh no, Mikhail, I accidentally turned on my camera. She's taking on the aspects of the flea. Her mandibles, they're horrible. Horrible mandibles.
Bogged down in the valley, oh.
I want to hear an episode where it's just you two, and I'm not there. And I bet someone would literally die. Actually die in real life. Because this is insane. If I don't talk for 3 minutes, it just it devolves into just gobbledygook. Okay.
Well, it's some pretty damning evidence
Fuck.
that Blake has found.
Mikhail tried to murder us by leaving.
Mikhail tried to murder us by leaving.
That was a sincere thing he said. Definitely not at all. He knew
someone would die.
Yeah.
And that someone was my heart.
Aww. Had we ever ended up doing one just us before? I know there was a couple of Mikhail and I, and
there was
maybe one
episode
you and Mikhail.
where it was you and myself and Jared when we talked about the TV show.
Oh, okay.
We still had Jared there as kind of a buffer from the weird zone, the silly space. Our second piece of fan mail comes from Dr. Pete at the Kingle Mingle on Twitter.
Becoming a regular staple here, coming up to the end zone.
Fan mail staple. Fan maple. Can we say that?
Oh, this is very interesting. Dr. Pete tells us the italicized language that appears in the books that we have been talking about.
Like the stuff that's oh, we know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
It feels like it's talking directly to the reader.
I believe that's what he's talking about. Dr. Pete, please
respond.
Please respond. Doc?
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 Are you there, Doc?
Doc?
It's me, Dork-Bajir.
Doc, we need an answer right now. Doc. But yeah, he's saying that did not appear at all in the UK version of the books.
He also goes on to say, I think it's the only major change they made, other than the cover to book 5. And now I want to see the cover to book 5 UK edition.
Fascinating content for an audio podcast.
Fascinating content for an audio podcast. I don't think there was any actual change.
Are you calling our boy Pete a liar?
I'm just looking on the Seropedia, my personal fan favorite of all things Animorphs. And, okay, there's a couple of cool 90s, busier, colorful backgrounds that are happening in the back. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Anyway, you listeners are probably enjoying this content a whole lot because you can see what I'm seeing. Anyway.
You, listening to our podcast at work, definitely have the ability to just Google along with us as we take these long pauses to give you time to look at things with us,
Well,
which is definitely a thing you're doing.
Also, I will say that Animorphs is not safe for work. Probably in any workplace.
Well, I mean, not safe for work. Not safe for work is for like visual stuff or like things you listen to out loud, like radio shows. This is a podcast. You plug in your earphones.
Is it?
Speaking of breaks, everybody, it's time for Brayden's Chapstick Hour.
Perhaps what Mikhail meant by someone would die if we were left on our own was that
Guy of
someone
old
would be-
age.
or someone would be the listener listening to the terrible slurping sounds that have appeared in almost every episode since he's been gone. Brayden,
Yes.
talking about book 48.
Yeah.
The return. Who's returning?
Well, says
It's
it on the fucking
sixth
cover. Aren't you
Animorph.
looking?
Big old spoiler
Yeah.
here. Rachel turns into buff Rachel with long claws.
Yeah, like Wolverine claws. Like what?
But
Who's the Wolverine?
They're her actual fingernails, though.
Yes. They're.
Which is
I don't
not
know if this was
Wolverine's
just.
claws.
I don't know if this was just in X2, but there is a Wolverine related superpowered individual in the Marvel universe that has those claws, but just their nails. It's a similar concept. Come on, don't bust my nuts too hard over this.
Anyway, this book is let's get into it. Rachel is on a tour of the White House with her class, and all the Animorphs are there, and the Yeerks attack while they're on tour. She hides behind a curtain to try to morph a bear, and a Secret Service agent is like, "Stupid kid, get out of here." She fights him off. She thinks about ripping him into shreds first. Normal thing to think when you're in the White House. Is it? No. She successfully morphs bear and fights off a whole bunch of Dork-Bajir, and then Jake and Cassie and Marco like pry her off the Dork-Bajir and say, "Okay, you have to get out of this. You're bleeding too hard, too much. You're so severely injured, but you're also just so coked up on adrenaline you can't see how injured you are." And Rachel's like, "Oh, this is a slight. Jake doesn't know what he's talking about." She runs towards the president. Well, the president's being shoved into a helicopter, and there's Dork-Bajir trying to pull him out of the helicopter. And Rachel tears him to shreds, the Dork-Bajir that is. And there's more taxes, and she's tearing them to shreds. And then Jake comes up and says, "Rachel, you're totally fucking losing it. This is not what this group is about." Rachel's like, "I could be a leader of the group." Jake's like, "No, you could be the leader of a pack, like a pack of wild animals. And if you want to fight me for that, well, let's fight." So they start fighting, and Rachel wakes up in a cold sweat.
And the president, right before though, the president's like, "Hey, I like this bear. Let's put it on the Space Force."
No.
Topical. Hey, bear, how would you like to eat Nancy Pelosi right now?
It was all a dream. She wakes up in a cold sweat. She's like, "Hey, this is really fucked up. I don't feel good about this at all." And she goes flying. She goes looking for Marco and Axe to see, hey, where's Cassie? Because Cassie's the one who she's the sensitive one, you know? Don't make fun of Cassie because she'll cry. She's the sensitive one. That's an inside joke because that's a literal thing my mom said to me, or rather about me, to a bunch of 12-year-olds. Anyway, this dream has fucked up Rachel. She doesn't really want to talk about it with Marco and Axe. She does this weird dig at Axe where she's like, yeah, he's like technologically smart, but he's emotionally thick as a brick. And then she goes on to say about how that's not really true because he's actually very perceptive. But perceptive doesn't mean that you're like emotionally smart.
He's smart, but not emotionally smart. Well, that's not true. He's smart, but not emotionally smart.
She just repeats herself. It's
they just
very,
really gotta, you gotta
like,
fill that page count
just,
out.
right? Just get the words up there. There's only so many dreams somebody can have, or is there? Spoiler alert.
I don't think that's a spoiler, because I think by the end of this, we don't know how many dreams she's had.
Marco and Axe are looking at on some websites to see people are talking about the Yeerks. There was previous books get referenced, books 46 and 47 with the aircraft carrier and the campers. And Rachel talks about how there's some people like writing about these exploits, like tabloids that you can find, because there's no real thing. But then Marco says something about how it looks like the Yeerks are going to be moving into more overt warfare, and Rachel fist bumps and says yes. and then tries to cover it by being like, hey, we've been losing because we've been sneaky. But now, if it's out in the open, then we can get, like, the army involved, and it's a good thing. And everyone is just embarrassed for her. And that's what she sees in their eyes.
It starts playing the Curb Your Motivation theme.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. Fuck.
And Rachel is, like, thinking in her head, like, fuck this, everybody just thinks I'm a wild card and I'm out of it, like, that's not what my dream means, like, I have control. She gets mad, she flies off with Tobias, and they chat about it. Tobias is like, do you want to talk? And Rachel's like, can you handle if I talk about it? And Tobias gives her a little bit of, like, tough love, like, hey, yeah, Rachel, sometimes people get freaked out because you seem to really like the battle. Mind if I just eat this rat in front of you real quick? And Rachel's like,
a lot of rats in this book.
Like, why? Tobias is so comfortable eating in front of us, but somehow I'm the one people are uncomfortable with? Ugh. And she goes to fly home, and she spots this red light off a radio tower on her flight home, and she tries to turn to get into her house, and she can't. She's caught in some sort of tractor beam just going directly into this red light from the radio tower, and then she wakes up again. A dream within a dream. Maybe this whole book is dreamed up. We really don't know. A lot of more fucked up shit happens. Rachel wakes up. Her mom makes her, like, get a rat from a trap in the basement. And Rachel's like, oh, this is I'm just the one to do your dirty work. And she's ruminating about David and the mistake that thing was. Like, she's thinking about maybe we need to increase our firepower because we can't depend on the Analytes coming to save us. Well,
maybe
last
we need
time,
more Animorphs.
last time that happened, that really fucked up.
Last time that happened, we really fucked up on our emotional intelligence levels and made a boy a rat.
We figured, well, it was Cassie's idea, and she thought that trapping him forever in the body of a rat was better than killing him.
I wonder how much of this story is... Spoiler alert, David comes back. I wonder how much of this story is informed by fan reaction to David being turned into an animal rather than being outright killed, and how much of that has always been part of Catherine and Michael's plan. That's something I would really like to hear from them.
You know what's interesting, though, is I don't think they would have really known a lot about the fan reaction because the internet wasn't as big when this book came out in the early 2000s. That you couldn't just go onto Twitter and tweet at Catherine and Michael and
no,
be like,
definitely
hey, what
not.
the fuck? Like, you could physically write in a letter, but I don't know if many people were doing that, you know? And I also feel like there's a lot of other fucked up stuff in the books that if people were writing in to complain about how David trilogy ended, they would have been complaining about other stuff. And I don't know. I don't think Catherine and Michael are the type to just... not kowtow, but just to kind of like take that into consideration. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd
I
love
feel like
to
this
hear
was a
from them.
plan.
Maybe that's something that we could reach out to them on Twitter about.
Be like, hey, what's up? So Rachel's at school and having a hard time with it. She leans her head against the wall during class and hears rats scrabbling behind the wall, which freaks her out. She goes to get a drink of water and hears somebody say out loud behind her, Jake is weak, you'd be a much better leader. Like, a leader must be strong. She's freaking out. So she cuts class, she goes shopping, retail therapy. Hey, Cassie, meet me at the barn later. I want to talk to you about this shitty dream I had.
Isn't this the point where she sees the red light as well?
There is also a point where she sees a red light at the beginning of at the front of the classroom, and looks back, and there's no red light, and then looks front, and the red light's gone. Where did it come from? So a lot of freaky shit is happening. The freakiest shit happens when she goes to the barn, and Cassie runs out of it, being chased by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rats. More rats burst out of the bushes, and they start attacking Rachel, and these girls are just being swarmed and slowly eaten apart by rats.
Mm-hmm.
Their idea is to run to the pond and hold their breath, because rats have tiny little lungs, they can't hold their breath that long. So they do that, but as the last rat lets go of Rachel, something grabs her from beneath and pulls her down, and she wakes up, trapped in a plastic box in the sewers. The box is barely big enough to hold her. She has to crane her neck, and she's very uncomfortable, but there are air holes so she can breathe. Mm-hmm. She thinks about morphing a bug to escape out of the air holes, but feels around the bottom of the box, and there's powdered insecticide. And these two she says they're older teens, so Rachel's like 15, and these kids are like greasy 19-year-olds.
Yeah. Also, it's important to note a complete lack of subtlety in theming. One of them has a rat tattooed on his cheek.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Foreshadowing that pays off in literally half a page.
Another one pulls this bulge out of his pocket, and it's a rat. It's a white rat. That is David.
Hey, is that a rat in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
It's a rat. David tells her a story about how he escaped from the island. He taunts her and, like, terrorizes her. He escaped from the island by waiting for researchers to come to view this bird, and then snuck on board the ship. But that's not all. There was a couple of other rats on the island that were smart enough that he could talk to become their leader, and they're his lieutenants. So now David has a pack of rats that follow him around, and now he's back here in their hometown. And
now, here's the best part. He is paying these two guys because he has stolen exactly $212,630.
Yeah. By, like, different kinds of small bills and breaking into businesses and stuff. At the very least, I think it's more there's a promise that he will pay these guys this amount of money, but he doesn't. I don't think he's paid them yet. He might have shown them a little bit of money, but I don't think he's paid them anything substantial yet. This is a surprise tool that will be used later. Chekhov's checkbook. David has a proposition for Rachel, or rather it's an ultimatum. She must morph rat and not lit herself, or else Cassie will die.
And then the light goes up, and Cassie is in a red plastic box that doesn't have holes.
It is see-through, so Rachel can see her as she's, like, mouthing, "Don't morph!" And they pull out a clock, and it's very dramatic. And Rachel morphs rat. And David drills a hole. David gets one of his goons to drill an air hole for Cassie. And then David starts talking to Rachel and interrogating, like, saying, getting inside her head.
Basically, the rest of this book is just shooting the shit and maybe having fucked up dreams.
Yeah, and then there's, like, not a lot of time left, and then Rachel's like, wait a second. Rats aren't fucking sentient. You can't get rats to be your lieutenants. Let alone, and then this is another thing that David said he did, was that he had, once he got to the mainland, he had his lieutenants go out and recruit more rats. Now he has a rat army.
Yeah.
And Rachel's like, you know what? Yes, I'm extremely sleep deprived, but I finally realized that that's some bullshit.
Now, wait a minute, mister. I call tomfoolery on this story.
Like, I'm a rat right now, and I'm fucking dumb as bricks. And Cassie starts to laugh and gets out of the box, and whoops, she's the Drode. And here's a great big red eye staring at you.
Yeah.
It's Cryak.
The first physical manifestation, I believe, of Cryak outside of Z-Space
or
that we've
that
seen
weird
so far.
Yerk hell that they were in. I don't think that was Z-Space.
I think it's gotta be, right?
It was something.
It's some extra planar point that at least has to be close to Z-Space if you believe the metaphor of the cone universe that Marco's dad used.
This is true. Fair point. Cryak has a body, which he's never really had before. Before it was just an eye on top of this machine.
It was...
But now, I read too fast, so I missed the real description, but it talks about how this arm grows out of the mass to, like, extend a hand to Rachel. And then suddenly Rachel is a human standing in front of Cryak in this other room, away from David and the Goon Squad. And Cryak talks to Rachel, and she ping-pongs between standing as a human form in front of Cryak or being stuck as a rat in the cage. And Cryak basically has, hey, I have a proposition for you. I'm not going to make you do anything. You have free will. But if you want, I could give you ultimate power. You could kill all the Yerks and free Earth. You just got to get rid of your cousin for me.
And he makes her into to show her that this is possible. He makes her into something like what's on the cover, although in the book it's described as a lot more
literal
mechanical.
Yeah, like there's gears and stuff in her arms.
Yeah.
There's like
which is very much like the aesthetic that Cryak has going on in his like whatever the dimension that he has. Like the machine and flesh melded together in a grotesque way. And Rachel's like bigger, she's stronger, she feels
her anger like coursing through her veins
I
as
believe
physical power.
She described like 20 feet tall. She's got like
Yeah.
sharp as flint teeth.
Oh, and her nails have grown into
Mhm.
like super strong, like titanium. So she feels super strong, and this is great. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. I forget where we go from here, but somehow she says she's not going to kill Jake. But then Kryak offers her another deal and is like, how about you kill Visser 1?
Uh-huh.
I forget
And-
how they segue into that, but
Well, I don't think it's not a matter of okay, don't kill Jake, kill Visser 1 instead. It's just a matter of I will show you what you can do with this power, and then you will owe me killing Jake.
okay, that makes
Um,
more sense. That makes more sense.
Her
Visser 1 is suddenly there.
Yeah.
And Kryak just like, and they're in like a football stadium with bleachers, and the drone and Kryak are super high up on one of the bleachers just watching. And Visser 1's like, why the fuck am I here?
and Krayak's like, I'm Krayak, you know who I am? And Visser 1's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan, but like I've heard of your work. I respect.
I think he's terrified. I don't know if it's like he's not a fan.
He's got like what I'm goofing.
Oh, were you goofing?
I was goofing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
This
was
is a
acting-
serious podcast.
I was acting like the Visser 1 was meeting like a rapper whose music he doesn't listen to.
That was a very good impression. Now that I
Oh,
think back on
yo,
it.
Kanye. Yeah, Mr. Kanye. How's it going? I haven't really...
Like,
I was really
Graduation was great.
Yeah,
and all,
yeah.
But
Black Skinhead? Man, that was fucking awesome. But, no, I can't say I've really listened to anything after that, sorry. But I respect the hustle. I don't know what people are going on about with all this, like, manga shit with you, but, you do you.
So Kryak tells Visser 1 a slightly different deal. He says, okay, this is a fight to the death. You kill my creature, and you've won Earth. But if you die, then you're dead forever. So Visser 1's like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And Rachel, as her super Rachel, is like, hell yeah. Oh, one of the first things that Rachel does as soon as she gets into her new super Rachel body for the very first time is she runs over to the drone and rips its head off.
Yeah, there's a little scene where she takes out some aggression on the drone, and then the drone is like, wait, no. But then she rips his head off, and then his head is like, well, this sucks, but I'm still alive.
Yeah,
asshole.
like it's like, it didn't count because I'm a wild card, bitch. So Rachel and Visser 3 fight. I was having a hard time picturing this fight because Rachel's big now, so that means she's the size of Godzilla. Nope, she's only just like a little bit.
She's 20 feet tall.
She's 20 feet tall. And if an Andalite is maybe 6.5 feet tall, like 6-ish feet tall.
Oh, definitely at least like they got like horse bodies. They've got a
Yeah, that's
horso
true.
and then a
So,
torso.
Horso and then a torso, so maybe 7 feet.
7, 8 feet.
What's Visser 3 gotta be? He's at least 18 hands tall. He's a big old horse. So she's bigger than him for sure, but it is described like she like punches him in the chest or kicks him in the chest. He goes flying. Then he morphs this weird acidy creature that starts oozing acid and eating at her flesh. And she's screaming. It's like, I need to be something that protects it. Like crocodile. And she thinks crocodile, and suddenly she's covered in plate armor like a crocodile.
Bam, super morphing.
Super
Literally
morphing.
only took 1 second.
Instantaneous. But also acid would eat at a crocodile too?
Well, I guess
Maybe not as
I
fast.
think the idea is that crocodiles and alligators, they have incredibly powerful stomach acid, like eat through tin sort of shit.
Oh.
So maybe that does translate to their non-stomach parts as well.
No, I think Rachel was just thinking because their skin is so like scrabbly and hard that it would be, I don't know, at least a little bit more protection
Interesting.
than like it would be like just more stuff
Well,
to
I
eat
think-
through versus soft human flesh.
That's interesting. I think it would actually be easier to eat through it. Like acid, the way it works, it breaks down like the bonds on an atomic scale. And my understanding of acid would be that like harder substances like metals actually have more powerful reactions to acid because they're breaking it down.
Interesting.
There's more bonds to break. At least as long as the acid is powerful enough.
What we've discovered here is that the science in this book is
Fiction.
shit.
This science is fucking fiction.
Visser 3 demorphs from the acid monster and morphs instead into red jello?
Which-
Somehow? What kind of alien is that?
Like a goo monster, like the
He's
ooze.
a goo. A goomba. If only. The goo starts, like, suffocating Rachel. She's like, I need to be a creature that doesn't have lungs. And so she just turns into a plant.
Like a giant plant monster.
A gigantic plant monster.
like a Zelda villain, and she realizes, like, holy shit, I literally made up a type of creature I need to be. I'm fucking invincible now. Literally, and in every single way. If I am not invincible enough in this body, I can be invincible enough in another.
Like, yeah. So Rachel's glory on that power. Visser 3 demorphs. He's like, this is fucking rigged. Kryak's like, sucks to suck, bitch.
Yeah.
And Rachel closes a hand around Visser 3's throat and toys with him a little bit, where she's opening and closing her hand as he's begging for his life.
Yeah.
I called him Visser 3. He's still Visser 3 in my heart. And then she realizes that, no, like, I don't want to do this.
Well, the thing is, like, this is a very interesting point that I noticed. What makes her change her mind is Visser 3 says to Krayak, give me give me that power. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't let me die. I'll fucking kill. I'll be your servant. Do that. And Rachel realizes, holy shit, he would do it. He wouldn't hesitate for a second in following this order. And I'm about to do exactly what Visser 1 would do.
So she kind of, like, has a moment of crisis where she's like, no, I want to be a good person. Like, who else in the Animorphs would do a thing like this? No one. So I won't. Kryak gets really pissy, throws her back in her rat body in the box. There's seconds counting down. Rachel has an idea. She's like, hey, Goon Squad, you two teens with the rat tattoo and the greasy ponytail. So this rat that you're following says that he has
$212,630.
Why are you listening to him? Why don't you just get that money for yourself? Yo, that's $106,000 each. And the goons are like, huh. And David's like, don't listen to her. And they pull their guns out and they're like, they point at David. No, you know what? This girl rat's got an interesting proposition. And they blast off the padlock. Rachel demorphs, and she's demorphing right when she's running out of time. And David is gloating. This is even better. Now you're going to be a half rat, half human, terrible creature. But she powers through it and morphs human. And the goons are like, all right, now you can remorph the rat and lead us to this treasure like you said you were going to. She's like, okay.
Sure, buddies.
Sure, buds. And she morphs into a grizzly bear and chases them away. Cassie is still there. It was a drone trick, but it was also true. And
maybe a dream. I don't know. Maybe
we don't know. Rachel frees Cassie, and Rachel's going after David. David's run away. And the book ends with Rachel as a human, and David sitting in front of her saying, don't put me back on that rock. Don't make me be alone again. Just do the right thing and kill me. And Rachel is sobbing. Because she doesn't know what to do.
And then it ends.
Wow! Reading is fun and makes you feel good.
Ah, man. I said feel good hit of the summer, this one.
This book was ghostwritten by Kimberly Morris, who also wrote book 38.
Emphasis on ghost.
The Arrival. Book 38 is the one where the other Andalites show up and accidentally. Sorry, I almost called him his brother's name. He must get that all the time. Axe gets a little boner for the hot lady scientist. She also wrote number 50 and 52, which we have not come to yet. I thought it was interesting. I wanted to look and see. I I didn't do a whole lot of research, but I couldn't find much more else that she's written. Just because I wanted to see, because this book was written in such a different style than any of the other Animorphs books. Like, the emphasis on just horror tropes is so...
Yeah.
Like, the foreshadowing with the red light and the rats popping up before David does.
I wrote that I thought this was going to be, like, a bit like a Saw book. When there was a point where David was like, oh, you're a rat now. Well, time to eat. And has one of his thugs pull out a baggie of rotten
food.
meat. which was like, oh god, is this gonna be the whole thing? Like David just mocking her and just
He's like,
making her do more and more humiliating
rat.
shit.
It's not that bad. It's like, David, can you chill? You have no chill, and that's why you were kicked out of the Animorphs and sent to Rat Island.
You know what I would really love to see?
What's
point of view book from the point of view of these fucking two dumb thugs.
Right?
Like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern or dead, or a Waiting for Godot of just two dudes who like meet a rat that talks to them and it's like, I'll pay you $10,000 each to kidnap 2 children, and then watch as one of them turns into a rat and make a custom plastic box for me to keep them in. And being like, well, that's weird, but okay. And then you're there. You just have to wait 2 hours for your rat boss's plan to go off, so he has a rat queen. And then, literally, the devil shows up. The fucking alien meat devil shows up and just fucks with the rest of your day. And you just have to be like, $10,000, dude. $10,000 fucking dollars. That's all I need.
Like, how... Like, is it more humorous to think of these guys as Jay and Silent Bob? Just,
oh my
like,
god.
Rat Tattoo is Jay, and the ponytail is Silent Bob, who's not so silent, and they're just hanging out, waiting for money from a rat.
That's something that would happen in, like, one of the View Askew-niverse expanded movies.
Yeah.
Fucking Jay and Silent Bob get talked to by a magical rat and end up getting pulled into a scheme to kidnap children.
And then they see the devil.
And then they end up meeting the fucking devil. Like, they're in Dogma. It can fucking happen.
Yeah. This is the fan. Kevin Smith, I know you're listening. Please, let's make this together. Tweet at us.
Kevin Smith, please reach out to K.A. Applegate and Michael Grant, but first us, so we can write the script for you.
We went to film school. We're very good at it.
Yeah, the View Askew-niverse Animorphs crossover everybody has been waiting
Everyone's been waiting for. We're going to get billions of dollars off Kickstarter for this one.
Jay and Silent Bob kidnap children and meet the devil. Kevin, baby, how's it going? What's the new project? What's this? You just listened to a podcast and they told you to make an Animorphs crossover? What the fuck? Jay and Silent Bob get stuck in a box? What the fuck?
The best part is that it would do really well because Animorphs is so hot. Yeah. Everyone loves Animorphs. We're just always itching for that new, fresh Animorphs content. I have a distinct memory where I've read this book, or I was in the process of reading this book, and I was like 12 or 14 or somewhere around there. And I was going to dinner thinking about this book and just feeling so weird and uncomfortable and unsettled by it. And like thinking in my head, well, I'm not going to talk about this book at dinner because this is fucked up. And I think I only read the book once because it creeped me out so much. But now that I'm an adult, I can appreciate the clever foreshadowing, the subtle foreshadowing. Subtlety is one of my best attributes.
I mean, I think that's something that's a bridge we've got to cross here. Like, the main twist of this book has no foreshadowing because it says it on the cover. The sixth Animorph is back.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of in the book, like, if you didn't know about that, like, there's the red light that gets referenced a lot, that's Cryak.
Right.
The rats in the walls, the rat in the house, the rat that Tobias ate. In class, in English class, they're studying the telltale heart, which Rachel describes as being a murderer buries his victim's heart in his walls and then slowly goes insane listening to it tick, which is, I don't know, similar to what Rachel's doing to herself with her guilt over the David thing.
I listened to the Telltale Heart again a little while ago. It's very interesting. I'm pretty sure, I think maybe I'm thinking of another Poe novel, but
if it was a Raven, it wasn't the Telltale Heart.
No, because there's actually it doesn't just talk about the part where he's in the living room with the detectives and he starts hearing the heart. See, it builds up to the actual murder. It's him talking in hindsight, trying to convince everybody that he's not insane. He just wanted to kill this guy, but he did so many specific things. See, because the reason he wanted to kill...
Because he kills the guy because the guy is really annoying, right?
No, he's just very... He's lived with this guy. I think it's like his cousin or something. He's cared for him for years. And the man has one, like a dead eye, like a whited out eye.
Oh, right. And the white eye freaks him out so much.
Yeah, and the white eye freaks him out. So he watches the man while he sleeps and uses one of those, like, hooded lanterns that you can, like, rotate what shape the light will take, to watch him while he sleeps, but keep the light focused specifically on the guy's little white eye. And then one day, the guy moves a little in his sleep and is woken up by the light, so he falls on him in a rage and beats him to death, and then he hides the body, and that's where... This has just been me talking about something that's always fascinated me about the Telltale Heart, but... We have gotten so off track. I'm sorry.
The little white eye is similar to the little white rat body, so it still counts.
Sure. Well, I guess, you know what? That does sort of work still, though. Because, like, this entire book, and really whenever they've talked about David, has been kind of that man in police custody trying to justify, like, no, I'm not crazy. I didn't kill him because I was crazy. I did so much specific... detailed things before I killed him. It was the most logical solution. It was the thing
only thing I could have done. It was the only thing
I could have done.
Yeah, that does sound a lot like Animorphs. Okay, I had a strange question about this book. So there's a part in the book where Rachel is thinking about herself and how everybody thinks that she's a weird freak who gets off on violence. And she's thinking about all of these quotes from previous books, a lot from the David trilogy, stuff that Jake and other Animorphs have told her before, stuff that David's told her before, and that's shown up in italics. There's also some stuff that shows up in bold italics, and I couldn't tell if those were flashback thoughts or like Cryak just talking in her brain trying to freak her out. You know? There's a couple other things that have happened where it's also like the edition of the book that I read, the print book, of course. It was a little bit fuzzy with the quotation marks and the brackets, so you weren't sure who was talking all the time. That was a little confusing. So maybe some of it is actually supposed to be a character talking, or it's just a flashback. I'm not sure, but honestly, I think the confusion works for this book because Rachel is so confused about if this is real or not, if any of it is real. She's losing grip on everything. I mean, the girl can't even sleep. She has all these detailed nightmares and wakes up exhausted.
It's interesting to note that by the time this book ends, depending on how many dreams you believe she actually had, it kind of seems like the only other Animorph that was featured in this book was Cassie.
Jake gets talked about briefly in the dreamscape, but also in real life, where they pass each other in school, and Jake just says hi, but Rachel's like hoping for a conversation because she's freaking out. When in the second dream, where she goes to Marco and Axe, she berates herself for thinking that the White House trip was real because Marco was on that school trip, and Marco is dead. Like, he died, and that's why he's hanging out with Axe all the time now, because he doesn't exist anymore in society. So there's a couple, and then Tobias gets mentioned, and Rachel, here's an OTP alert. OTP alert! Rachel talks about, aside from Cassie, Tobias is my best friend. And I guess my boyfriend. Like, wow, ringing endorsement for that relationship.
These people are so fucking 13 years old. It's ridiculous.
I really think they're about 15 now. Because if they were 12, if they're 13,
okay, whoa. Like 10 books ago, we were talking about 13. You would think they're already at 15?
No, I think that they're close to it. Anyway, it's got to have been a couple of years. They were definitely 12 to 13 in book 2. And it has been the 46 books since then, over that, because of all the Megamorphs adventures they've gone on. So it's definitely been 2 years.
Well, definitely not over that, because every Megamorphs adventure ends up with them, like, actually, I think the Megamorphs adventures probably add less time to it, because they end up going back to, like, the point they started, or slightly before that.
Only the last 3 of the 4. The very first one had, like, actual events happening. Remember with the Valik? And then they reference it in book 8?
That is true. That is true.
That was the only one. Yeah, what'd you think of this book overall? With this weird, horrific tone.
I certainly enjoyed it.
It was so different.
Yeah, this is another sort of... I'm DMing a game right now in 5th edition that uses a lot of, like...
This is tabletop role-playing game, nerd shit, just for fair warning. Continue.
Yeah. If you want to leave after this nerd shit, I don't know why you were listening in the first place. But anyway, yeah, I'm DMing a game of 5th edition right now, where the players are very invested in a god of, like, dreams and sleep. And so that's one thing that I've really been getting to explore lately. And I saw a lot of sort of the techniques that I've used and the, like, dream logic that I've used in those sequences here, and that was very interesting to see. I very much think I'll probably end up using some of this in some RPGs. So that's
nice.
So that's what I thought of it. I thought it was useful.
I don't want there to be any more books in this style, but I think this was a very effective book in this style, with David coming back, and about how it's like, you're not sure if that's real or not. Like, did he really come back, or is that still part of the dream? And I think it's really effective that it's Rachel. I mean, of course it had to be Rachel's book, where David comes back. Who else would it be? Like, David blames Rachel for everything that's happened to him. He blames Marco a lot too, but I think he blames Rachel more because he also kind of likes her. Like, he talks when she's in rat morph and he's yabbering her ear off. He talks about like, we can rule the world together. We as rats can rule the world together. Like, they're a pair. Like, Rachel would want to hang out with him once they're both rats. And honestly, Rachel as a rat would be just fine. She would just go to Axe and be like, "Hey, boot up this episode of Pickle Rick real quick. Can you make me a little suit that I can walk around in?"
What?
A little mecha suit.
Well, the mecha suit was partly made out of rats.
It was made out of rats. Yes, this was a bad analogy, but Axe could still make her something.
Axe, I'm useless as a rat. Tear apart my body and make me into a mecha.
No, I meant built a little, like, I don't know what I meant. You're right. That was a foolish mistake. We do see our old pal Visser 3.
Yes, and we get a morph minute.
Visser 3 morph minute.
Visser.
2 morph minutes, in fact.
2 morph minutes.
Visser 3 morph minute.
3.
He turns into some red ooze somehow, and he turns into an acid monster.
Yeah.
Neither of these have names. I like it when he morphs like a bad guy in the regular books, where it's like, "Hi, I'm morphing the Blardigar. Its poop explodes. I'm gonna spray a bunch of poop all over you now." Like, because Visser 3 always knows the stats of the creatures he's morphing into, and he always brags about them like he's some kind of Yu-Gi-Oh nerd. And he's like, "Haha, you've activated my trap card.
I
now
morph into a blue-eyes white dragon in attack mode."
We don't really see much of the morphs that Visser 3 does, hey, do we?
No, yeah, they were very quickly described, because, like, he kind of jumped between them very quick because it was a combat situation.
Yeah.
But you know, that was very interesting. Getting to sort of see a Visser 3 morph where we sort of had more time to imagine it for ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brayden, any more thoughts on this book?
I really enjoyed it. I found it useful.
This might be
Yourself?
the worst that I felt after reading an Animorphs book. Like, there was a couple other ones. I can't remember now. Which other ones made you feel bad?
I mean, the end of the David trilogy, obviously.
Yeah, that one's pretty bummy.
All of the Tobias ones are pretty depressing in the middle,
Yeah.
but kind of by the end, they usually...
By the end, they've got their upswing, and
Yeah.
they end on a hopeful note.
When he finds out Elfangor is his dad.
Book 23.
Does that end happy? And he's like, now I have a connection to my ancestry, or is that the one where it ends with him?
He kind of like accepts that he has to be a predator because he acquires the mama rabbit, morphs her, and takes care of the baby buddies. And then we find out in book 33, while he's being tortured, he has a flashback where Marco is like they have all the baby buddies in a little hutch at the barn with Cassie.
Right.
Which, now that I think about it, is a big flashback to book 9 where they were taking care of the baby skunks after Tobias ate their mom.
Yeah. Well.
So, interesting. Anyway.
Their mom and one of the babies.
And one of the babies.
Let's go into Animorphs ER right now.
Animorphs ER!
Animorphs ER.
This is the segment where we diagnose an issue in this book and try to find a more creative and effective solution. Today we're going to try something a little bit different.
A little bit saucy.
Yeah, we found a question that we were very interested in, but sort of realized it would be very,
Well, let's just say the question first.
Right. How would you use a non-Krayak powered body with morphing, though, to defeat Visser 1 in a one-on-one fight?
So wait, not with Krayak powers?
Not with the Krayak powers that Rachel requires.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting twist.
Yeah.
So it's like, Visser 3 has all of these kinds of crazy morphs.
Yeah.
How would you use morphing to try and defeat him?
Yes. But here's the thing. We kind of realized we thought that was a really interesting question. We got very excited about it, but coming up to it, we realized that it would just be sort of a little bit of fiction that would be just us making a bit of fan fiction, which isn't what we really do here. But we thought it would be fun in today's Animorphs ER to toss it out to you in the world. If you had morphing powers and the knowledge of what sort of morphs Visser 1, Visser 3 would be bringing to the table, how would you respond? How would you use your knowledge and abilities to respond and defeat him in combat?
Brayden!
Hello.
What are your predictions for book 49, The Diversion?
Okay, well, let's do
Predictions!
Predictions!
as usual, a quick little breakdown of what I visually see on the cover. So this is a Tobias book.
It's got the new Tobias model.
Yeah,
that we remember from Megamorphs 4.
The second, or I believe this is the second mainline book that has used this model.
Is it 43? Yes, 43 did use this, didn't it?
Okay. Yeah, the Taxon one.
Yes, it did.
The tagline is, "This war can't go on forever. Will it be us or them? ... Question mark. It features Hawk Tobias turning into a German Shepherd dog, and it is called The Diversion.
And there's a great the level 4 morph right before he's a dog, where he's just got these stubby little wings sticking out of his neck, and he looks like an airplane.
He looks like a dog from All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah. Aww.
I loved that movie.
That was such a good movie.
Oh man, Charlie Sheen just fucking getting dog coked out of his mind, drunk and high.
Yeah, dog coke.
Yeah.
Dog coke, spoiler alert, dog coke features prominently in book 49, The Diversion.
Well. Okay. I believe that this war cannot go on forever. We're getting back into not just the sort of personal struggles of the Animorphs' internal monologues, dealing with conflict and war and fighting as a guerrilla warfare force. We're going to be getting more into the macro, the actual tactics of the war. How are they going to fight it? Who are they going to use? Who's going to fight beside them? And since this is a Tobias book, who is confirmed to be in some ways, at least spiritually connected to the Andalite Empire, I believe we are going to be dealing with a book. This will be a book where the Animorphs hatch a plan to convince, lure, trick, etc., the larger Andalite forces to join forces with Earth in defeating the Yeerks. Or not necessarily with Earth, with the Animorphs, with the presences that are there fighting the Yeerks already, And yeah, they are going to try, and I believe that will be an interesting internal battle for Tobias, who will kind of have to come to terms with the idea that, like, I am my ancestor people who will have to learn about them, have to learn, probably from Axe, learn exactly who and what the Andalites are in a much bigger way this episode.
This is the very last Tobias book before the end.
Yeah. Was this the last Rachel book?
I think it might be, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, we're getting into final stretches. Oh, man. Alright. If you if you get sad thinking about how we're getting close to the end of the Animorphs book, and you want to just enjoy a bit more Animorphs content, well, we got spicy memes and past episodes up on our Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Facebook.
Remember to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, or else I'll fucking trap you in a box and turn you into a rat, but keep on putting you between dream sequences where you are a rat and a superheroine.
Okay, that's somebody, I'm very sorry, but now you've discovered a very specific fetish. Congratulations. I have been Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden. I guess I did do that.
And this has been Fetish Morphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Fetish Morphs, the 4 Bajir Chronicles.
Fetish Morphs, that's just bad. That's the worst one yet.
Do you want to do another take?
No.
Okay, this is in the episode.